Hi, my name is Amir and I'd like to give you a quick introduction to how to make themes that are compatible with WooCommerce on multilingual sites. We're going to talk about the very basics of WooCommerce, WPML, and then we'll go into translating WooCommerce sites and what you need to do to make your themes WPML compatible. For our case, we're going to use three major building blocks: WordPress, which powers over 70 million sites today, WooCommerce with over 4 million downloads, and WPML with 500,000 active commercial websites. Just a few words about WooCommerce in case you're not familiar with how it works internally. WooCommerce uses several key components. We have products, which are actually implemented as WordPress posts, product categories, which WordPress implements as taxonomy. We have a robust and excellent API for product templates. We have template files which you can copy and place with your theme, then customize them. And one of the very helpful things for making it multilingual ready is that WooCommerce uses the default WordPress tables for all product and product categories, and it only uses custom tables for its internal management, such as orders. This is a very important issue because this allows us to translate everything that you build in WooCommerce. A WooCommerce product can be displayed as a single page or in a listing page. And remember, products are just posts, so you can get them using the regular WordPress API. Typically, on a listing display, you will see the more condensed information, and on the individual product displays, you'll see more complete information. And it's very important to mention that listings such as this should use the WooCommerce API, which allows you to display the correct product information regardless of the product type. The same product in the database can be a different product type. It can be a downloadable product or a physical product or a variable product, and if you use the WooCommerce theme API, you'll have the correct display no matter what product that is. And then we have the cart and the checkout templates, which allow you to display, to implement the entire checkout order process, including when products are added to the cart, and then when products are being purchased. WooCommerce also includes a thank you page and customer account pages, but these are things that usually you don't customize in themes. And just a few words about WPML. WPML translates products, or posts in that case, using their own posts. Meaning, when you create translation for something, you'd create a new post or a new taxonomy item. Since these are their own posts, translation will also get their own URLs. And WPML filters the WordPress API calls, especially those used in themes, the templating API, so that you get the correct products. We'll go through that in just a second. And WPML also filters get text calls, so you can provide translations for code wrapped in get text calls through WPML's interface. No need to use MO and PO files. Let's have a look at how products look when they're translated. Here's a book product. Okay, that's the book. It has a title. It's got a price. It's a price range because this is a variable product. Okay, this is the English product right here. You can see the slug for this. And here, this is the Chinese translation. The ZA chant isn't part of the product name, it's the language prefix. That's the actual product slug. Okay, and the product looks the same, but this is a copy of this one with all fields translated. It's very important to remember that these are not the same post in the database. This is what allows you, when you translate, to have different texts for different products in different languages. For example, in our demo site, we used all-in-one SEO, and it comes with its own fields. So when we translate the product, we also translate the SEO fields. And WPML, like we said, filters the WordPress API calls. So when you query products, you will not get both. You will not get the products in all languages. You will get just the products in the current language. In this example, we're looking at the Chinese homepage, which lists the products, and you see only the Chinese products. You're not seeing the English or the Spanish products, which we have in this demo site. So when you create your themes, your WooCommerce themes, you don't need to worry about all this inner working, but you should understand how it works when you go to translate the site. And just a quick mention, WPML is a modular plugin. It comes in different modules. There's the main WPML module, and then there's the string translation, translation management, media translation. These are all modules that you'll need to install in order to use WooCommerce with WPML. And you need to use WooCommerce Multilingual. All of these WPML elements are coming from WPML.org. WooCommerce Multilingual comes from WordPress.org. So what WooCommerce Multilingual actually does is it's basically an integration plugin between WooCommerce and WPML. It includes several features which allow to translate everything in a WooCommerce site and make this translation process easy. Without this plugin, it's somehow possible to translate WooCommerce sites, but extremely difficult. WooCommerce Multilingual puts everything together and makes it very easy for end users to translate their sites. First thing that it does is it includes a long checklist of everything that needs to be done. It does most of the settings work automatically. For instance, WooCommerce Multilingual will automatically create copies for the WooCommerce store pages in different languages and place the WooCommerce shortcodes in these pages. So this is completely transparent to the end user. It will make sure that all the plugins are installed and activated, and then it will check and notify the user about anything that requires translation in the site. For instance, the user creates products and product categories and product tags. If any of them are not translated, we will see a notification message drawing attention to that. Next thing is central translation for products. When you use WooCommerce Multilingual, you translate everything, the product and its attributes, through one centralized translation table. This makes it very easy for site administrators. So site administrators don't need to understand how things are implemented. They see products and they see fields for the different properties of the products, and they translate them. Okay? So if a field is the title or the post body or other fields, SEO fields, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if fields are custom fields or coming from taxonomy. The user translates them in one table, and WooCommerce Multilingual saves everything to the database. Product category and other custom taxonomy appear in their own translation table with the same principle. So you will see it in the default language, and then you can translate to all the other languages. finally, a very important functionality that WooCommerce Multilingual does is to keep track of the language information throughout the checkout process. This is something that's done completely seamless to themes. WooCommerce Multilingual will add a session variable that says what the language is, and it will hold this language through the checkout. The language will start by appearing in the URL, like in product URLs, and it will continue in the URL through the checkout process. So if we look at the cart in a different language, like here in the Spanish cart, we'll see Spanish in the URL. And eventually, when the client goes to a payment processor, WooCommerce Multilingual adds the language information to the cart. It becomes part of the cart object, and when the customer gets back to the WordPress site, we get back the language from the cart and continue the payment completion with the confirmation emails in the correct language. And final thing that you need to remember is that WPML lets you translate every string that's wrapped in getTextCall using WPML's string translation. Okay. This is important because if you wrap your text, the text in your theme correctly in getTextCalls, end users will be able to translate them. And even texts that are dynamic, for instance, the site title in WordPress under general settings, this is a text that people would need to translate, but it doesn't. It's not stored in the PHP because it's dynamic. It's in the database in the options table. WPML filters calls to the option table and replaces the values with translated values. So the user enters the site title, it goes into the database, then goes to WPML string translation, translates that text, and when we look at the Chinese or Spanish version of this site, we will see the translation text now. Next thing that WooCommerce Multilingual does is allow a site to run in different currencies. When you go to the WooCommerce Multilingual admin screen, you will see the currency settings. You can enable the entire multi-currency functionality and disable it. Okay, and then you can control which currencies you have in the site. You can add currencies. You can set the default exchange rate. Okay, you can select the symbol and the format for different currencies, and you can choose what would be the default currency for different languages. This is something that the end user should do, but as a theme developer, you will need to pay attention to this and include the currency switcher display in your theme. If you do that, this will allow your theme to run on multi-currency sites. So just by including this single statement in your templates, you will display the currency switcher if it's enabled. If it's not enabled, this will return a blank string, an empty string. You've probably heard about RTL support. Well, RTL support is very important when you use multilingual sites because a large part of the world uses languages from right to left. Just a few languages, but it's still a very large population in the world. What RTL does is basically mirrors the site when you look at the other languages. So this, for instance, is our homepage in English, and this is our homepage in Hebrew. The entire page is flipped, and when you read the text here, in English you would read from this direction, from left to the right, and in RTL languages you would read from the right to the left. So the entire site will be flipped, and every element inside it will be flipped. Usually, to make sites work in right to left, today is very easy in WordPress. If you look at the default 2014 theme on our 2015 theme, you will see that it includes an RTL CSS file. WordPress knows which languages use RTL orientation, and WordPress automatically loads that sets the RTL flag and loads the RTL CSS for you. All you need to do is provide that file, and we have a complete tutorial on which elements you should adapt when you want to support RTL. It sounds complicated, it's fairly easy. Okay, so WordPress will set the RTL selector, and you need to provide the rules which tell it what to flip. For instance, float, our table grid uses floats. In left var it will float left, and in RTL it will float right. Next item that you should pay attention when you're building a theme for multilingual sites is that texts will change length. For instance, the select options button here has a quite longer text when it's in Spanish. It might have a shorter text when it's in an Asian language such as Chinese. So a good choice for multilingual themes will be to make a layout dependable on the content, not to force layout into the exact dimensions that you see for English texts, but to allow it to breathe, not to specify dimensions, exact dimensions in pixels. And once you have everything finished, you want to make it easy for people, for your end users, to run a multilingual site. And this means to include a configuration file which tells WPML what in your theme needs to be translatable. Your theme may include custom post types, fields, taxonomy, and strings, and a configuration file will tell WPML which of these needs to be translatable. Now, you don't want to make everything translatable. You only want to make the items that include text to be translatable. For instance, if you have a field for a price, that field shouldn't be translatable. But if you have a field for SEO title, this certainly needs to be translatable. The WPML configuration file is the place to include this information which tells WPML what needs to be translatable in the site. Finally, once you've created your theme, you probably want to test it and you want to see how it works on a site in a different language. What we're looking for is to see that everything actually gets translated when you switch the language of the site. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for you because we know that going through each and every text in the site can be pretty time consuming. So we've created a testing tool which automatically translates everything in your site. For example, this page here was created in less than a minute. We ran our WPML testing tool, we added Spanish to the site, and we told the tool to translate everything. And it doesn't really translate, it just adds dummy translations. Okay, but then when you go through the site, you can very quickly identify and see if you have any texts that are not translated. And then you can resolve it. You can either tell WPML that this type requires translation, or register that string, or maybe that string is not going today through a getText call, so you wrap it in a getText call and it gets translated next. This is pretty much everything. Let's just quickly go over what we talked about. In order to make your theme multilingual ready, you should use the WordPress API calls in order to load products. Don't use low-level calls because WPML filters the WordPress API calls. And every time you load products, either single products or listings, using the WordPress API, you'll get the correct items in the right language. So you don't need to have a different code for single language site and multilingual sites. Next thing is, of course, remember to wrap your texts. Every static text in the theme, in your code, remember to wrap it in getText calls. This is a good practice for any theme. It allows your theme to run on a single other language, and it allows your theme to run on multilingual sites. Make sure that your theme ships with an RTL CSS file. Include a language configuration file which tells WPML what needs translation, and test everything. We want to make it easy for you to get started. WPML is a commercial product and it costs money, but we're giving complimentary accounts to other authors, to theme and plugin authors. So you're welcome to join our Go Global program. Sign up, indicate what you're developing, and you'll get your complimentary WPML account right away. You also get access to our theme compatibility team, which will give you first-class support, and you also get your private development site on our servers. Of course, you can create your own private site, but on our server you get the closer cooperation with our developers, so if you need help debugging anything, we all look at the same code and we see what's going on. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and we all hope to see you in this competition. Bye bye.